Welcome to Gameweek 6 in the Premier League. This is EPL Insights. Gareth Wheeler, Jake Osgathorpe with you as we break down the week ahead in the Premier League. Jake is on a flyer. I had one of the most painful weeks of experience in recent vintage watching the Premier League. It's like every game I was watching, Jake, completely went opposite to script. And even when it was on point, it somehow found a way to disappointing me in the end. That was my week. How was yours?
Mine was much better than that, in fairness. It was a good week. Another profitable one for me. That's 4 out of 5 profitable weeks. Just the one really bad week in between. All good. And more importantly than the profit is I secured 2 head-to-head wins over Gareth Wheeler. What a start to the season.
Shocking. By the way, the Aston Villa Crystal Palace game, that drove me to another level because there was always a struggle in those early games and you see it coming through late and a penalty, which I still don't think should have been given. And even my bet, I would have lost the head-to-head to you if it stayed 2-1, but like 90 plus 11, a 3-1 dagger delivered to my jugular. And the other one that just crushed me was Burnley Nottingham Forest. I'm on the overs. By the way, there were still 5 overs that played last week. I just happened to be on 4 of them that didn't go over last week. And the Burnley goal, the handball on Sandro Berg, I don't think it's a handball, and it should have been clear and over. So there was a bunch of games that went that way. It was just a miserable week all around for me, and one that I want to wipe the slate clean. I had 1 game right from 8 and a push, and I went from having a nice, healthy profit to being a little bit under, about minus a unit through the first 5 weeks of the season. So I just gave it all back in 1 week, but I've been trending in the right direction until last week, and I just want to put in the rearview mirror and look ahead to this week. So sounds good. We'll do that. Jake will continue to keep it going, and I'll try to get some dignity and self-respect back. Anything else stand out to you from last week, just in terms of the way the games played out, the results, or anything that the markets may have shown?
Not particularly, no. There wasn't a lot of draws. There was 2 draws out of 10 games. It was a good week for the big teams, wasn't it, really? Liverpool, Spurs, City, Brighton, Newcastle and Arsenal getting wins. And Villa, of course, as well. So the only one that didn't really win was Man United, but they were playing against a fellow big side. And you saw, you mentioned the Villa game there. That was one where, and probably the Spurs game actually, where the added time definitely favoured the better side. And it gave them 10 extra minutes basically to score a couple of goals in Spurs' case, and a couple for Villa as well. Definitely something to keep an eye on moving forward, and maybe something for in play if a big team is being held going to, it's creeping towards 88 minutes, and you think there's going to be another 7-8 minutes stoppage time, then it could be an opportunity to trade and get involved in the better side in those kind of situations, because it does seem like every single game at the minute, it's got 7 to 10 minutes at a time. And just, if you think about it from a playing perspective, you've got a really good team like a Spurs against Sheffield United who sat deep for the entirety of the game. And they've just been running side to side, chasing Spurs across the pitch. It's going to tire you out. 5 subs all you like, but it's going to eventually cost. And it did in those 2 occasions. So something to keep in mind, definitely for an in-play game.
All right. So let's dig into Game Week 6 or Feature 5. We'll go rapid fire for the rest and provide some of our favorite plays for the week ahead as well. And let's start with Manchester City as they take on Nottingham Forest. 8th place Nottingham Forest. Not bad. City atop the table. The game's to be played at 3 p.m. Local time on Saturday. City, a 3-1 victory over West Ham last week, and another one of those games where it's just West Ham scores early, but it was really a completed one-sided affair. 4.15 XG, courtesy of Understat, was far and away the best expected goals of the week in the Premier League. 29 shots and 15 of them on target. They conceded first, but inevitably ran away with the game. They have the best XG and the best expected goals through 5 games. There's 3.69 expected goals against for Man City. That is particularly standout for me. It's been a straightforward start to the season, but they have conceded a goal in 4 straight, including against Red Star Belgrade in the Champions League in what turned out to be a 3-1 victory, but it wasn't necessarily smooth sailing throughout for City this week. Erling Haaland, 7 goals and 5. He's already best in that category by 3. They haven't lost a game at home in 2023 at Manchester City. They drew Everton 1-1 on December 31st, New Year's Eve. Do you remember what their last loss was at home at the Etihad, Jake?
Brentford before the World Cup break.
2-1, November 12th. Well done. Kovacic, Stones, Grealish, all questionable. Bernardo Silva looks to have picked up an injury and is likely out this weekend. For Nottingham Forest, a 1-1 draw at home on Monday against Burnley. Callum Hudson-Odoi with his first Forest goal. Forest is the third worst expected goals at 5.15 through their first 5 games of the season. This is their fourth away game that they played, and they've all been tough away matches. Arsenal, United, Chelsea, and now Manchester City. It's been a difficult start to the campaign fixture-wise. They were the worst away side last season, just a reminder, 1 win and 8 points on the campaign. City won this fixture 6-0 last season, but they did play to a 1-1 draw some way, somehow in the reverse fixture. So City are considerable favorites coming into this one to win outright, -701. The draw +843, a Forest victory +1790, all available on Pinnacle. Is there a play to be made in this game, Jake?
I think so, yeah. I just think it's more of a price play than anything. Both teams to score at +132. It looks massive. And, we know City in general are a good defensive team. They don't concede a lot of many chances in terms of expected goals. But what we do know as well is that because of the way in which they play, they do get caught out sometimes on the counter-attack. And when they do concede a chance, it is generally quite a big chance. And, while their overall XG total might not look very big, if you look at the big chances conceded, there are perhaps more there than you might expect. So I do think Forest will be able to get a few chances. As you've said already, they've had tough away games to start the campaign. They've already been to Arsenal and scored. They scored twice at United, scored at Chelsea as well. And I definitely think they're a much improved side when visiting compared to last year. I mean, it couldn't get any worse, could it really? Let's be honest. I mean, one of the worst away teams we've ever seen in the Premier League. And yes, City, they've already conceded in one of their home matches so far 1.46 expected goals against as well, against Fulham. So conceded a decent amount of chances there. And interestingly, they actually conceded in 12 of 19 home games last season, which is quite a lot, and a lot more than I expected to find when I was doing my digging. So I do think that this both teams to score play, it should be shorter. Like we said, Forest generally like to play on the counter-attack as well, so it should suit them down to the ground. They won't have to change any kind of style or system. They'll play exactly the same way as what they have done. And they might have lost Brennan Johnson, but Callum Hudson-Odoi's come in and he looks pretty good the other night, playing a similar kind of role. You've still got Gibbs White, one news, a handful. And as you mentioned there, Manchester City have got some injuries piling up. Like Stones, Bernardo's off, Grealish, Kovacic. So it's generally Pep likes to play with a thin squad. He doesn't like 20-odd players to choose from just because you're going to upset quite a few people in that case. Whereas he likes to play with about 15, 16 regular first teamers. And if you have 4 or 5 of them out, then all of a sudden you do look a little bit thin on the ground. De Bruyne is obviously a massive miss still. I know Alvarez has been playing great, but their injury list is a bit of a concern, especially with the fixture list stacking up. So I fully expect City to win, don't get me wrong, but I just think the value is in both teams to score.
Okay. I considered that play because I did think that there was some value there. I'm just looking at the underlying numbers. Nottingham Forest aren't really creating that many chances. And I think that Brennan Johnson loss, I looked at their team and they're bringing on Origi, they're bringing on Wood against Burnley, searching for a goal. They're kind of half chances across the board. They go to Manchester City. I mean, I'm trying to look at any kind of advantage that Forest might have going to this game. They played Monday. They have some injuries as well in their team. City played Tuesday. There's not too much of a difference there for a Saturday 3 p.m. game. And I think that City, based upon the fact that they've lost some attacking players, I think there's going to be a little bit more of a focus on keeping that defensive shape for this one and making sure that they take away that trend. So I'm betting against the trend here. Well, I'm actually not betting against it because I'm not touching it. I'm just not touching it altogether. I think that Doku's looked really good for Man City, doesn't he? Like the pace, the way that he attacks down that left-hand side. I think they found another absolute gem. Alvarez and Holland are firing. I'm just not sure how Forest can keep the pace with City in this game. I looked at the total. Again, I'm not sure if Forest is going to score. That meant that City, based upon the goal total at 3.25, need to score 4 goals outright in order for you to have a clean win. I'm not willing to make that bet as well. I do have a bet. It's going to be on the Asian handicap, first half, Man City -1 at even odds. I think that City can start quickly. Again, I think they're going to buck their own trend. They conceded first in a couple of these games, including to Red Star Belgrade midweek. The Pep will demand things to be sharper. I think they can put this out of reach very early. At -1, a 2-0 halftime lead, I can see that playing out. So give me that. If City score a goal and they lead by a goal at the half, then you get your money back. So it's a risk worth taking at even money, and that's where I think the best value is. Not sure what you make of that, Jake.
Yeah, it's a play that's yielded quite a lot of profit for you over the last season as well, started this season. So yeah, I fully expect City to win, as I've said. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a bit of a 3-4-0 and Forest get a late consolation. I wouldn't be surprised. I also wouldn't be surprised if the opposite to what your bet happens and Forest are leading at halftime, like Red Star were in midweek. Just against the run of play completely. They only need one good chance and take the lead, and then obviously City just roar back. So like I said, I'm fully expecting a City win. It's just a case of how and how best to find the value. And we've come up with 2 different options there, so the listener can decide how they want to go.
I mean, it's funny. The Red Star Belgrade goalkeeper, it used to be a Canadian in Milan Borjan. It was a goalkeeper named Glazer, and he made a number of big saves in that first half. But the Glazers do in Manchester, they ended up giving it away in the end.
Punch it in their own goal, yeah.
So Glazers in Manchester is simply not meant to be. And I still don't trust the goalkeeping at Nottingham Forest as well. They're lucky to come away with anything in that game against Burnley. Burnley didn't play great. Forest didn't play great, but again, I think that Forest were a little bit unlucky not being given credit for that second goal in that game, which would have given them an unlikely away victory. So let's move on.
I do think. Sorry, go on. Yeah, I do. I just gonna say I do think that those kind of games just don't suit the way Forest want to play. If you look at their games, I mean, they beat Sheffield United, yes, but again, they didn't create a lot of chances, and that's because they're coming up against a team who, a similar kind of level to them in the sense. I get Forest are better than the Blades, but they still are. Yeah, they're a bit more of an even match. Whereas when they're playing against a team like an Arsenal, United, Chelsea, you do see them create more problems because they like to play on that quick transition, and you don't get as many opportunities against teams that are generally in and around you. So, yeah, it'd be interesting to see. Like I said, it was 6-0 last year. I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case again, but I do think there's a bit more steel around this Forest team this time around. So we'll see. Full unit play for me on that.
Yeah, me as well. Let's move it on. There's a lot of games Sunday at 2 p.m., which are the standouts this weekend. They just loaded up, so you're going to have to take your pick on which game you want to watch. But let's pick another game from Saturday. It's the late game at 8 p.m. Burnley and Manchester United from Turf Moor. Burnley's 19th place in the table. United down in 13th. Burnley coming off that 1-1 draw at Forest. Again, I'm not sure if you're with me, but I thought they were extremely unlucky. Foster scored the late goal. It was called back. It would have been 3 games in a row for Foster to score. Instead, it was the Berg handball. Then Foster is sent off based upon violent contact. Now he's suspended for the next 3 games. So quite the turnaround there. Burnley are just struggling to create from an attacking perspective. A 3.42 expected goals, courtesy of Understat, through 4 games. And that is the worst in the Premier League. For Manchester United, whenever they lose, it's like the world's coming to an end. Everything's crumbling. It's just absolutely sensational. People forget that Chelsea have actually performed worse than United on the season. But here we are. A 3-1 loss to Brighton. Brighton played United off the field at times at Old Trafford. Yet United were centimeters, or maybe a centimeter, or maybe there was nothing there. Out from being 1-1. And a Højlund goal. Was the ball over the line? Was it not? Let the debate continue after the Garnacho offside and handball not giving against Spurs. These critical decisions simply haven't gone United's way early this season. More injuries. Aaron Wan-Bissaka is out. Harry Maguire didn't travel to Munich to play the Champions League fixture on Wednesday. We are recording this before United play Bayern Munich in the Champions League. Varane and Mount didn't make the trip either, but it sounds like both could be available for the weekend fixture. Amrabat and Kobe Mainu both also close to returning as well. No clean sheet in 4 for United. Both teams to score has played in the last 3 ahead of the Champions League game, and there's been more than 4 goals scored in each and every one of those games. Head-to-head, United did play Burnley last season in the EPL Cup and a 2-0 home victory. It was 1-1 the last time they played at Turf Moor the season before. No losses for United in 5 in this head-to-head. Burnley haven't had a clean sheet in 5. They played to the under 2.5 in 5 of 7, but Manchester United has been the first to score in the last 5 games. Burnley, a win, plus 339, a draw, plus 329. Manchester United, minus 132. Could be some value there for an away victory. It's hard to tell not knowing which players may be left standing after this trip to Munich. Simply put, the injury crisis and the off-field issues have really impacted Erik ten Hag in his early season plans. So how does this one play out? It seems to be, 3 losses, Arsenal good team, Spurs a good team, Brighton a good team. Burnley isn't a good team. So does this mean a change in fortune for Manchester United?
Possibly. Burnley's results so far this season would suggest so. I mean, they've had a real struggle playing against the best teams, and they've played them all at home as well, which has to be quite concerning if you're a Burnley fan. City, Villa, Spurs have gone there and won very, very comfortably. They've conceded 11 goals in those 3 matches as well. So if you think Man United are anywhere near those kind of levels, then absolutely United to win would be a bet. But yeah, for me, I really struggled with this game. You mentioned the injuries. That's a massive question mark. You mentioned the midweek game against Bayern Munich. We're recording this before that game, so we don't actually know how United get on, if they get absolutely hammered there. Do we see a slight change in approach, a little bit more of a, not pragmatic, but a little bit more of a shift back to what we saw last year, which was a little bit safer, shall we say. Handbrake slightly on. This season they've started high press. They've won a lot of high turnovers. They actually lead the league for high turnovers, which I think is really interesting. But they're also yet to score from a high turnover, which is somewhat surprising and maybe shows the issue that they have at the moment. I had got this down as a no bet with a potential to maybe go with the overs, but I want to hear if you can convince me.
Well,
you'll go straight Man United.
I was thinking about going straight Man United, but I think that what you just said, for United to be successful and why they were successful last season, is they didn't concede goals. They've been playing far too wide open, and I think it's going to have to be reined in just a little bit. Just the defending's been sloppy. The press hasn't come off. I think there will be an adjustment here. This is a game that they have to win. Like, it's a must-win for United, and I can't see Burnley with their best attacking player going on and actually threatening the back line of Manchester United. Varane might come back in. I'm just confident that United can come away with a clean sheet. So I'm looking at this, minus 132 for a win. It's a play that I like. I'm not going to make. Both teams to score no is also a play that I like at plus 131. But if I think United are going to win this game and they're going to keep Burnley to nil, then that's the play, and that's where the value is at plus 246. And this is how Gareth Wheeler gets back on the right side of the ledger here, by making a 1.5 bet on Manchester United to beat Burnley to nil in this game. So that's my play. Let's see how it plays out. I know that it comes with some risk, not knowing with the Champions League, but I'm locking in at this number now. I think that it's too good to pass up on. And I think it could be a low-scoring fixture, maybe 1-2-0. We'll see. But Burnley has shown me nothing. United has shown me something in stretches, not consistent enough for the 90 minutes. And my hope here is that they can keep it together well enough for a 1-0, 2-0 victory and get out of there. So that's my play. Plus 246, 1.5.
Wow, that is a big play. You're a very brave man trusting this Man United defence. I'll give you that much, because they have looked shocking so far this season. Even Wolves created chances against them. Forest broke through quite easily. Yeah,
Think Burnley can do the same?
wait, what? I mean, if Wolves can do it, there's no reason why Burnley can't. They've come up as one of the best Championship teams we've ever seen. They're yet to hit the stride. You know, I think they're probably looking at their summer window. They're probably going to be a bit like of Nottingham Forest, slow burner, because they brought in loads of players again, like completely rotated the squad.
Lots of very young players too, Jake. Like, there's not a lot of experience in this team.
Yeah, I don't know. This is the kind of fixture that last season United won very, very easily. It's just a case of if they are going to. I don't know if I trust. I think they're a worse team this year than they were last year, and that's what they started off like anyway.
Well, we'll see. Based on the personnel that's available or not available, it's hard to say that they are better. But once they get their players back, then we'll see. I think they still do have some better long-term potential, but short-term, it's been a struggle. And you're right, for all that's been made of their away travels against top teams, Burnley isn't one, and they've generally won these games with relative ease. So banking on them spinning back the clock. Wednesday, who knows? The weekend, that's a must-win Saturday night at Turf Moor. Not much travel as well. So that's my play. Are you going to hold off on making a play? Sounds like you are completely anti-United like the rest of the world right now. Feel free to bet against them if you like.
I would, but this is not the right spot for me because, like you, I've not seen enough from Burnley to think or to for me to warrant getting them on side. If it was a different team that was potentially had started poorly, but underlying numbers were looking half decent, you could see a little bit of something in the performances, then I might consider it at the price. But I'd want at least a goal on the handicap. But we're only getting 3/4 at the minute, so yeah, I'm gonna leave that one alone. As we've kind of both agreed, the only way United can get back on track is keeping it tight, which kind of goes against my overthought path. Unless Ten Hag is just extremely stubborn and just continues to play in this expansive, high pressing way, which we'd love to see because it is entertaining football for the neutral. But yeah, it's a hard one to kind of gauge, and probably one just to keep an eye on over the next few weeks as to just how United are setting up.
And just a quick note, if United do get smashed by Bayern Munich and some Burnley money comes in, if this drops in the -120, -125 range for a United outright victory, I'm making that bet, and that will be my favorite bet of the week. Okay? So we'll see what happens later on Wednesday.
Yeah, see what the line does.
If it affects the markets as well. Let's move on. 2 p.m. Sunday, you know where you should be. It's watching Premier League football because there are 4 great games. We're going to deal with 3 of them in our feature 5. And let's start with Chelsea, who are in 14th, facing 7th place Aston Villa from Stamford Bridge. Chelsea, tough start to the season continues. What's going on with Mopo? A 0-0 at Bournemouth. They're creating chances, 14 shots, 6 on target, 65% possession. But again, just goal scoring. Jackson, it looks like the clock has struck midnight Cinderella. He's turned back into a pumpkin.
Have you seen that video doing the rounds?
No.
Oh, is it? No. Oh man, it is hilarious. I will send it you. Yeah, I'll retweet it on my Twitter timeline because it is hilarious. It's, when he goes through 1-on-1 against Bournemouth and he slices it into the stand. Someone's done a GIF with the goalpost where it gets bigger by 150% and he still misses. And it gets bigger by 175% and it goes up to like 300%. It's brilliant. I'll find it and send it you. It's so good.
He must have been watching the tape over the last couple of years about another Chelsea striker who's out on loan, and Romelu Lukaku, because it's very familiar. Missing hitters on a regular basis is like, could have kept Lukaku. Anyways, I hope for the young man he comes good because it does look like he has something to offer, but right now it's a bit of a mare in front of goal. Chelsea are top 5 in expected goals, but massive questions about who's actually going to score them. They have 12 players out, like Manchester United and Chelsea, and Sheffield United, I should say. All of some serious personnel issues. Caicedo and Cucurella look the closest to coming back, but Czech reports had a kickoff based upon their statuses. But a number of key players, Batashil's relatively close as well, but man, a lot of issues. And their bench looked relatively thin last weekend. Who are you going to turn to in terms of someone providing the goals as well? Aston Villa left it late to Wheeler's demise, 3-1 over Palace. The John Duran goal, former Chicago Fire striker. What a goal in the 87th minute. Full credit for that, but the penalty was debatable. 90 plus 8. Then Bailey 90 plus 11, sealing my fate as a loser last week. 11 goals in 5 games for Villa. 10 conceded, however, requires improvement. They played to over 2.5 in every game this season. And Jacob Ramsey's close. He could be available off the bench this weekend. We'll see, which would be another big addition to an already good team. Aston Villa, in this one, they won this fixture 2-0 last season, and these two sides have played to under 2.5 in 4 of 5. Looks to be some good potential value here, Jake. I'm not sure what you'll think about the markets on Pinnacle. Chelsea minus 111 for the home win. The draw plus 295. A Villa away win at plus 299. What do you make of the markets? What do you make of these two sides?
I'm shocked that the market has got Chelsea odds on
Me too.
to win this game. I think that's quite laughable, to be honest. In isolation, Villa are probably a better team at this moment in time. So, if you're doing neutral venue, then that would suggest that Chelsea are probably around the plus 120 mark at the moment. That to me is wrong at neutral venue. I think they should be a lot closer to maybe plus 150 a piece at the very least. I saw something quite interesting. When was it? It was Monday Night Football put up the Premier League table for 2023, and Chelsea are 16th for the calendar year with 25 points from 28 league games. Everton are 2 points behind Chelsea in the calendar year, and they've got 2 games in hand. So it kind of shows you how bad the results have been. And then the flip side, Villa are 4th with 52 points from 27 games, behind only Liverpool on goal difference and ahead of Brighton. So it kind of shows you just the trajectories of the two clubs, the way in which they're going. Yes, Villa have been hammered by Newcastle and Liverpool, but Chelsea are nowhere near that calibre of opposition at the moment. They really aren't. They can't score. Their underlying numbers would suggest they've had a decent start. They're averaging 2.1 expected goals for per game, 1.2 expected goals against per game. But they've had an easy schedule. They played Bournemouth, Forest, Luton, West Ham, all teams that finished in the bottom 6, all were promoted last season. And Liverpool, granted, they're 5th last season, first home game under Poch. But their underlying numbers have been massively swelled by that one game against Luton, where you won the XG battle by around 3, got 3 expected goals. So, as I said, they're struggling to convert 5 goals from 10.6 expected goals. It's a running theme, really, since the start of last season, where they just really struggled to put the ball in the back of the net. Villa, no such issues whatsoever. They really are looking like a strong team, and I think they're going to be one of the sides that really does rely upon beating teams outside of the big 6, if you like. The big six. I definitely don't include Chelsea in the big 6 currently. I'd probably swap them out with Newcastle. I just think this Villa team are well set up to do a job on Chelsea. And I was tempted by Villa to win at the big number, but I'm just going to take them on the handicap plus 101. So even if they draw, we get a winner.
By the way,
1 unit plea.
My Villa over the points total at the start of the season. I'm happy with that. Even more happy with my Brighton over the total, and they should be in the big 6. Even though you and the rest of the production team on this podcast laughed me offset as we kicked off this season with my backing of Brighton, but I'll stay with them. The only thing I can think of, Jacob, based on the markets, is they play in Warsaw in the Conference League. Villa do on Thursday. It's away, European football, how that's going to affect the side. But I look at Unai Emery. He's vastly experienced playing in European competition and balancing these kinds of schedules, even though some of the players might not have that experience. I mean, Diaby does, Torres does, some of the players that they did bring in. So exact same play. I'm going to go at 1.5 units. I'm going to do that again because this line is too good for me. Villa on the handicap plus 101, half a goal. Villa win or draw. It's a winner for you. Same sentiment as you. Good insight though, Jake. And we're aligned for this one.
Yeah. I do think it's interesting. The Thursday night is definitely something to think about. But I wouldn't, at this early stage, I wouldn't really be too worried about it. We're just coming off an international break. They played one game at the weekend against Palace, and they've got Thursday, Sunday. It's not like we're in the middle of February, where it's Thursday, Sunday,
Bingo.
every week. So they're at the start of it, and they've got a fairly deep squad as well. You look at the players they brought off the bench against Crystal Palace: Yuri Tielemans, Leon Bailey, Jean Duran, obviously, who come on and scored a couple of goals. Dendoncker coming off the bench. They even got Clement Longley if they want to switch out another centre half. Alex Moreno just coming back from injury, the starting left back. So there's a lot to like about their squad, and I think that they'll. Like you said, Emery's kind of a proven operator when it comes to European football and balancing things out. And yes, he has been known to just completely throw the league at certain points in the season, but that's if his teams aren't anywhere near contention. So at this moment in time, I do think he's probably going to be playing a strong team regardless of the game. It's going to be strong team Thursday, strong team Sunday, and then reassess there. I think they might have got a Carabao Cup game midweek next week. So, that's an opportunity to rotate ahead of the Prem. So, I definitely think that's the way you'd be looking at things anyway.
All right. Also at 2 p.m. on Sunday is North London Derby time. And the way that these two teams are tracking right now could be a big step in the right direction for one of them. It's fourth place Arsenal hosting second place Spurs at the Emirates. I mean, the last time that these two sides were this high up the table when they played one another was a couple of years back when Spurs kind of went on that run where they flirted with winning the title and inevitably it came for naught. But Arsenal weren't quite there at that time. Arsenal coming off a hard-fought 1-0 victory over Everton. Trossard with the goal as Martinelli came off and is now looks like he is injured and looks like he may be out. 4 wins and a draw to start the season for Arsenal. So much for the Wheeler fade. 4.13 expected goals against. That's second best in the Premier League. The attack, though, it's kind of mid-table, perhaps a step off from where they were a season ago. However, at the Emirates, they scored 2, 2, and 3 at home, and that's where their bread is buttered, really, at the Emirates, and that's where they really perform. They play PSV at home Wednesday. It's coming up after this podcast, a team that they're very familiar with. Like I said, Martinelli out, Partey out, the long-term absentees as well, Elneny and Timber out. For Spurs, another big win for Big Ange Postecoglou, making it look easy, unlike pronouncing his name. 2-1 over Sheffield United, 90 plus 8 Richarlison, 90 plus 10 Kulusevski, and Jake Osgathorpe is smiling because Sheffield United lost. They escaped with the win, but they did have 28 shots and just a 2.16 XG. Most importantly for Spurs, they remain undefeated. They've played 2 away to Brentford and Bournemouth, and they scored 2 goals in those 2 games, and they scored 5 away at Burnley. So they have 9 away goals on the season, but just a 6.11 expected goals away from home. Both teams to score has played in 4 of 6 this season. Spurs haven't picked up a clean sheet in 3. Lo Celso close to being available, but some bad news. Perisic has been ruled out long-term, at least until the springtime. Head-to-head, a 3-1 and a 2-0 victory for Arsenal last season. Spurs haven't won in their last 4 in all competitions at the Emirates, but they've scored in every one of those games. They haven't won at Arsenal in the Premier League since 2010. Do you remember who scored the winner that day? Yunus Kabul.
I do. Oh,
sorry.
I was going to go there. I thought it was a quiz question. Yeah.
Who are the other 2 Spurs goal scorers that day?
I feel like Yunus Kabul got the winner. Did William Gallas score for Spurs in that game?
He didn't. He did not.
No. Gareth Bale.
He did. Scored the first Spurs goal. It was a come-from-behind victory that day.
Raphael van der Vaart.
You got it. Well done.
Yes.
Look at you. Sorry for ruining your Kabul.
That's all right.
But before that win in 2010, they didn't won away at Arsenal in 17 years before that. So going away against their North London Derby rival has been very difficult. Arsenal to win, minus 135. The draw, plus 340. Spurs, plus 337 for an away win. This one is mouthwatering. This is a sexy game, the biggest game of the weekend. How do you see this playing out, Jake?
Goals, goals, and more goals. That's what I feel this game's going to be. Yeah, I'm taking both teams to score an over 2.5 goals, minus 123. It's a 1.5 unit play. It's probably my favourite bet of the week. Well, one of my 2 favourite bets of the week. I just don't see how this is going to be a low-scoring contest. If you just look at Arsenal for a start, at home since the World Cup break, they've kept just 3 clean sheets in 18 across all competitions. So an 83% of the matches they've conceded. And if you go back to the start of last season, they've played 22 home league games and 16 have seen both teams score and over 2.5 goals land. So not just both teams to score, they've seen both teams to score and 2.5 goals. That's 16 out of 22. And that percentage would give us an implied price of minus 270. So already you're seeing the minus 123 looks a slice of value. And then you factor in the visitors and the way in which they're going about their business under Postecoglou. 18 goals in 5 league games, both teams to score and overs in 3 of the 5, creating plenty, over 2.1 expected goals for per game, but they're also conceding quite a few, nearly 1.5 expected goals against per game. And I can't see this being a low-scoring game. I was looking at potentially taking Arsenal to win and both teams to score just because of their incredible home form, incredible home process, 2.3 XG, 1.06 expected goals against per game since the start of last season. So they are generally a home juggernaut. But yeah, I just thought that the price around the BTTS and overs, not even needing anybody to go on and win, was definitely the play. It was either that or the goal line. The goal line's 3.25, so I'm quite happy to take, even if it's a 2-1, I'll still get a nice winner.
All right. I get that play. The reason why I shied away, no Harry Kane anymore. Like, Kane would score against Arsenal, there'd be goals. I do like the way that the Spurs team is playing. They've impressed me. My initial read on what I thought they might be was incorrect. They're not playing European football. They have a full week off to get right. Really just solely focus on this. Arsenal's going to be looking at PSV. I look at Arsenal this year. I don't know. Their home games have provided good results. When I've watched them play, I'm not sure if they've been as sharp as they were last season. It's just the eye test. It's not necessarily the numbers or the data. So I'm a little bit mixed on what I've seen from Arsenal. Some fantastic players in this team. I think they've been better defensively than they have been in attack. Whether it be Saka, Jesus, and Kedia, it just hasn't quite clicked yet. So I think you're getting some value on Spurs in this game. I like Spurs on the handicap plus 0.75 at minus 104. So a win or a draw, you win your bet outright. If they lose by a goal, it's just a half loss. I think this game, I don't think there's much between these two teams, to be honest, Jake. I think that they're going into this game, and I think both teams really relish this and think they have a real chance to go out and win the game outright. Spurs have impressed me. I like what's going on with Big Ange. And I think that their attack looks a little bit sharper right now. So give me Spurs on the handicap, a full unit play.
Interesting. Yeah, I definitely agree on the attacking front in terms of the amount of chances they've created. They've racked up more expected goals, but Arsenal have just been way more controlled. They to me, I was saying this in the office the other day, to me, they're starting the season and it doesn't look very convincing in terms of the results. The performances haven't been overly convincing, but they're starting the season in the manner that Manchester City usually usually start the season. City usually start like kind of grinding out results, still finding their feet, and then they hit a period of dominance from January onwards. Arsenal last season, if you remember, they started really, really hot and they were winning games by comfortable margins, 4-1s, 3-0s. And then obviously towards the end of the season, when it started to get a little bit tighter, they didn't fare too well. So I see it as a positive that Arsenal haven't really started like smash, bang, wallop, and they're kind of just easing their way out of the blocks and still getting wins. I think personally they're going to have a little bit too much quality for Spurs. I agree with you. I think Spurs have definitely, I said at the start of the season, didn't I, that I fancied Tottenham to do well just purely because I think that if they got rid of Kane, then they're going to make the team better. And that's ultimately what was required. Still got a lot to kind of fix and sort out there. The away game against Brentford, for example, springs to mind as a contest where they were second best, and that was the first game of the season. So obviously caveats there, but I definitely think that the Arsenal are just still slightly above the level of Spurs, and that record they've got against them as well at the Emirates definitely is has to be seen as a positive. So if I was going to pick a team to win, I'd be leaning towards Arsenal, but I'd say I think goals is the safest option.
All right, let's go to the fifth and final game in our feature 5, and it's from Anfield as third place Liverpool take on sixth place West Ham, also at 2 p.m. on Sunday. Unbelievable. Liverpool left it late, but they won 3-1 at Wolves after conceding first. There were some lineup changes and some team changes by Klopp that were dictated by a lot of the travel and the quick early game that came about after the international break. It was an 85th minute winner by Robertson and a 2.83 expected goals courtesy of Understat in that game, which I believe was second highest on the Premier League weekend. 4 straight wins for Liverpool, over 2.5 goals in their last 4, and both teams' scorers played in 4 of 5. They're 4-1-0 on the season. I did make a preseason play, Liverpool to win the Premier League. There's nothing that would persuade me to not have confidence in that bet. If there's anyone that can catch City, for me, it is absolutely Liverpool. Third in XG and top 5 in expected goals against, which is a massive improvement on last season. 3 goals in both home games this season. They haven't lost in 10 in all competitions. Their last home loss in all competitions was, Jake?
Leeds, 2-1.
That was in the Premier League. Their last home loss was 5-2 to Real Madrid in the Champions League.
Madrid.
That's okay. You got it right. Leeds, the 2-1 loss, which was back on October 29th. So 14 straight undefeated at Anfield in the Premier League. Van Dijk returns. Trent Alexander-Arnold still unlikely for the weekend. They do play at Lask in Europa League on Thursday. It's in Austria, but I have no idea where Lask is. Do you know where that Lask is? No?
No. Is the city? I think it's Linz. Is the city?
Okay.
Upper Austria. Yeah, it's LASK Linz. I think LASK is is it a company that sponsors them or something?
I've been to Austria. I've been to Salzburg. Beautiful country. I have no idea what or who Lask is, but when it's Lask, you say, "Well, I'll ask." Most of the letters are right there. You join this podcast for comic relief. We all know that. West Ham. James Ward-Prowse scores again. What a man. West Ham took a 1-0 lead over Manchester City before the onslaught ensued, and it was a 3-1 loss at home in the end, their first loss of the season. But West Ham has scored in every game this season. However, no clean sheets this season either. They've gone over 2.5 in their last 4. But West Ham has been the first to score in 5 of 5. They host Serbian side, Baka Topola? I'm not very familiar with my Serbian football. Baka Topola in the Europa League, not even Europa Conference League, in the Europa League on Thursday. Edson Alvarez looks good to go after picking up a knock last weekend. Head-to-head, a 1-0 and 2-1 victory for Liverpool last season. 3 straight wins for Liverpool in this fixture. West Ham, no clean sheets in their last 15 games against Liverpool. They've played over 2.5 in 5 of 7. Both teams to score in 5 of 7. 6 straight Liverpool wins at Anfield, and West Ham's last win there came all the way back in 2015. So what do you make of this? Liverpool minus 235 to win on Pinnacle, the draw plus 449, and West Ham to win outright plus 573.
Yeah, this is it's an interesting contest. It made it even more interesting because I don't know if you've seen or read or heard over there, but West Ham striker Mikel Antonio, he has a podcast over here, and he's basically called the fact that he thinks that West Ham will finish above Liverpool this season, which I think is it's a hot take.
That's funny.
And it's a huge hot poker to just jab in the side of Liverpool as they're about to play them at home. So I don't think the timing was great, as if they needed any more motivation. But I think this is. That's not going to factor into my thinking, but I just thought it's a really interesting kind of additional motivation almost for Liverpool. Not that they need it, because at home in general they are just sensational, aren't they? And the home form's ridiculous. I keep having to update this because they win every week, don't they? But since 2017 in the league, they've won 87 of 116 home matches, losing just 7 times. 6 of them came in the same season and consecutively. So they've lost just once in the other 5 seasons combined at home, which is just mental. The home games, underlying data-wise is just ridiculous from the start of last season. 2.5 expected goals for per game, 1.15 expected goals against per game. So utterly dominant whenever they take the field at Anfield. And yeah, I think Liverpool will win. Obviously, there's no juice in the price whatsoever. We're looking at a very short home price for a home win at minus 235. So it's just a case of how do we go about that? Do we look at backing them on the handicap, which is minus 1.25, or do we look at backing them to win and both teams to score at plus 158? Because 12 of Liverpool's last 23 league wins have seen both teams score as well. So over half of their league wins have seen both teams score. And West Ham, as you mentioned, have scored in every outing so far this season, creating plenty of chances, 1.66 expected goals for per game. But at the same time, they're also shipping quite a few good chances as well. Even Luton managed to rack up 2 expected goals against the Hammers. So yeah, that's my play. I'm going to make it a 3/4 of a unit play, so not a half unit, not a full unit.
Ooh, interesting.
3/4 of a unit, just for staking and return purposes. But yeah, I like it as a play in the sense of if Liverpool win, I do think it will come with a goal to be conceded, even if Van Dijk does come back into the fold.
You explained it for me. Both teams to score and a Liverpool win at plus 158. The exact same same play. Liverpool win. You'd be a fool to bet against them at Anfield, but the back line is still a little bit shaky. They might be a little bit more secure with Trent Alexander-Arnold out of the team. They did concede to Wolves of all teams last week, and West Ham are good in set pieces. James Ward-Prowse is a weapon. And some of their, like Jared Bowen's been on really good form to start the season. It's not that I don't rate this West Ham team, but just going to Liverpool and expect them to come out to win. Perhaps they can pull a lead from last season. I'm not banking on it. Both teams playing midweek fixtures. So yeah, Liverpool to win, both teams to score plus 158. And there you have it. Your feature 5. Notice what I didn't do in the 5 based on last week. No totals for me, Jake. No totals.
No totals
in this one. And I have 3 plays in the feature 5 on plus money. So here we go. This is the week that we move, game week 6. Let's go rapid fire. And another London derby, Crystal Palace and Fulham, 3 p.m. Saturday. Palace, no clean sheets in 5. They have a number of players who are either questionable or out. Lerma, Tompkins, Gooey's been battling something. That makes me a little bit nervous heading into this one. Do you have a play here?
Yeah. My second favourite play of the week, Crystal Palace to win at minus 101. They have a couple of questionable injuries, but that doesn't really concern me. I'm more looking at the state of Fulham and their defensive issues. Conceded 1.5 expected goals against Luton last time out, and that was at home. So far this season, they've averaged 2.6 expected goals against per game, which is league leading. And Palace have been steady so far this season. Their process is solid, 1.57 expected goals for, 1.41 against. But doing a little bit more digging, they are very much turning into a team that struggle against the best, but do very well against the rest. So far this season, obviously, they've beaten Sheffield United, they've beaten Wolves, they've drawn with Brentford. Obviously, the defeats have come in the other 2 games against Arsenal and Aston Villa. And if we look a little bit closer, since Roy Hodgson took charge, they've won 7, drawn 4, and lost 4 of their 15 league matches. They've averaged a very, very solid expected goal process, 1.4 expected goals for, 1.1 against, and 3 of the defeats there came against sides who finished in last season's top 8. So if you take those out, the teams that finished in the top 8 last season, their record with Hodgson is 1-7, drawn 4, lost 1, averaging 1.6 expected goals for per game and 0.9 expected goals against per game. And then if you look at just home games, they've won 4 and drawn 2 against such teams. And Fulham definitely fit into the category of a team that didn't finish in the top 8. So I do think this is an opportunity for Crystal Palace to get another win under the belt. And the price, I just think, is huge. We were on them a couple of weeks ago when they did the business for us against Wolves. I think Fulham are as bad as Wolves when it comes to defending, and Crystal Palace definitely shown a little bit more of an attacking flair when playing against these lesser teams. So Palace to win, and I'm also going to back the overs as well. Over 2.25 is the goal line.
Wow.
To play.
Two plays.
1.5 units on a Palace win,
Woo-hoo-hoo.
1 unit on the goal line, minus 117. It's Fulham after all. You know, the game against Luton should have gone overs. Look at the chances that were created by the team. It was about 3.4 expected goals combined. And yeah, as I said, Crystal Palace generally play more front foot when they're playing against non-Big 8 teams. Yeah, I think that there's 2 plays there that are must back.
Okay. What did we go head-to-head last week? Jake 2, Wheeler 0. Head-to-head this week. I'm on Fulham on the handicap. If you're going to give me half a goal, a win or a draw,
Really?
I guess the Palace team, no Lerma, no Tompkins, Gooey's coming. Like, they don't have much depth in this team. They can't afford any more injuries. I use a little bit of a doubt. Elise continues to be out. Franca hasn't even played yet. It's just, there's only so much you can ask of this team. I was on Palace last week, and I was confident in that play until about the 90 plus 4 in that game. Fulham finds a way. They're pragmatic. I think that their manager, Marco Silva, understands what they give up in order to try to produce what they can. Polina looks back settled in this team. He has a new contract as well. I don't think Fulham are as bad as you're advertising them. And I think that against a depleted Palace side, I think they're going to be right in this one. I think it's going to be very, very close. So let's make it a head-to-head. Just a full unit play for me. Fulham on the handicap at minus 107. So
I will
head-to-head,
gladly give you the opportunity. I'll gladly give you the opportunity to get one back on the head-to-head. I'm really shocked that you're taking Fulham. So yeah, I'll happily take another head-to-head off you.
I like my Palace, but hey, I'm going to back Fulham in this game. Let's go Luton Town and Wolves, also on 3 p.m. Saturday. Luton Town, no clean sheet in 6. They played to over 2.5 in 5 of 6. And Wolves have gone over the number of 2.5 in 4 of 5. What do you make? Do you have a bet in this one?
No bet for me in this one. Too many things to think about. Big 6-pointer potentially. Luton at home looked half decent in their only home game we've seen so far, and Wolves still struggling to get a hand on them. They were brilliant the first half against Liverpool and just completely fell to pieces.
Wolves stink. I told you they're going to get relegated. That was one of my preseason bets as well. Wolves to be relegated. I'm seeing nothing that changes my mind. This is a game where Luton Town can come out and win. They can at Kenilworth Road. This is a game that they have to have circled the full 3 points. I'll take the risk. I can't see Wolves going there and winning. So give me Luton Town on the handicap plus 0.25 at minus 101, almost even money. So if it ends in a draw, it's a half win for you. And if they win outright at even money at home against the bad team, makes a whole lot of sense for me. So let's hope Kenilworth Road can provide a difficult challenge for Wolves this weekend. A poor side going through what should be a difficult environment could mean good things this week. Brentford and Everton, 5:30 p.m. Saturday. Brentford has some injuries in their back 4 as well. Rico Henry, by the way, out for the season. I think he's an important player for them. Everton haven't had a clean sheet yet this season. What do you see playing out here?
I don't see a reason why we should abandon the Brentford ship, to be honest, when they're playing at home. We've banged the drum for them for a long while now, and the record is pretty sensational since the start of last season. 1-10, drawn 10, lost 2, so they don't lose very often when they play at home. And over that span of 22 games, you've averaged 1.8 expected goals for, 1.2 expected goals against per game, which is ridiculous figures, really. And they're unlucky not to have registered more wins and turned more of their draws into wins. Brentford won 6, drawn 5 against teams below them last season. And Everton away from home under Sean Dyche, won 1, drawn 6, lost 4. They've conceded 2.3 expected goals against per game in those away matches as well. So when they travel, they concede a lot of chances. I think this price, minus 118, is more than fair. I am only going to do a 1-unit play, though. I'm not as confident as the Crystal Palace win. So I'm doing a 1-unit play on Brentford to win just because of the amount of draws. So I'm dropping my stakes slightly to what I'm doing with the other game. But I still like it, Brentford to win.
I was tempted to roll with Everton here. I just can't do it. Just because of some of these injuries in the team. It's going to be my first total of the day. Over 2.5 at minus 104. Brentford have some defensive issues. I think Everton can go there and score. Brentford in attack, and I know there's been no Tony, but they've looked good. Wisa and Bamu, Shada, like they got some real players in this team. Let me just check what's both teams to score in this game, because that one might be. Do I want to do? It's minus 119. Both teams to score. Let's do that. Both teams to score at minus 119, rather than the over, because it could be a 1-1, something like that. I'm confident that Everton can go there and challenge this Brentford back line. I want to see what it looks like. I think that Azer's hurt. Like there's a bunch of injuries in this Brentford side as well that makes me a little nervous what they look like defensively. And they've looked vulnerable at times. I think that some of these games that they've come away, 3 draws from 3 games at home, by the way, this season. And I feel like if they were a little bit more stout defensively, then they would have come away with victories in those games. Ben Mee has a knock. Okay, looks like he'll play. Ayer looks like he'll play. Rico Henry out. Both teams to score minus 119. Let's do just a half unit here, okay? I just want to sprinkle. Just a half unit.
Okay.
I just don't think you can fully trust Everton. I don't think everything about them has been as poor as what their record shows this season. I think they played brave. I just think the squad is a little bit limited. Good midfield battle in this game. I got nothing more to add. I feel like I'm treading water here, trying to find a reason to bet something else, but I'm just not going to do it. So let's go to my 2 favorite teams. It's these teams that start with a B. We love betting Brentford. We love betting Brighton. And we love betting Bournemouth as well. Is Brighton and Bournemouth 2 p.m. Sunday, another great 2 p.m. fixture. Brighton or box office. Straight up, no other way of putting it. Bournemouth is competitive every week. They're very competitive in the way that they play. Do they give Brighton a real challenge this weekend at the Amex? What do you think?
Possibly. I struggled to find a bet that I liked in this one, though, with the handicap 1.5, home win minus 260. The goal line is up to 3.5. It was, for the last 2 Brighton games, I think it's been 3.25. And obviously it's clicked both times, so that's probably why the line's moved a little bit, even though Bournemouth are coming off the back of a 0-0 draw. I've got enough. I've not found anything that I like, so I'm no bet.
Both teams to score, yes. Brighton winner at plus 154. Brighton have been conceding goals. They haven't been keeping clean sheets. They play a high-risk style, and this is where Bournemouth and their new manager will see what they can do to press. If they can press better than some of the teams that Brighton have been playing against, I think they can find a little bit of joy. Brighton haven't had a clean sheet this season. They've gone over in 5 out of 5, and both teams to score, and obviously played in every game. So I think Brighton's a better team here. But both teams to score. Does Brighton make it every game? Do they come away with a clean sheet finally? I'm going to bet that they don't. So plus 154 for a unit. And finally, on 4:30 p.m. on Sunday, Sheffield United look to bounce back from devastation. They have a lot of injuries in their team. Taking on Newcastle, who not only won last weekend in a game that they grinded out, a penalty which really shouldn't have been given against Brentford, if we're going to be honest, and played to a goalless draw at the San Siro in the Champions League against AC Milan. What do you make of this game here to round out the weekends?
I was looking at the unders, given the fact that Newcastle have gone 1-0, 0-0, look to have reverted more to what we saw last season in terms of defence first football. But then I remembered that they're playing Sheffield United, and last week they played a good Brentford team who finished comfortably in the top half last season. They were in race for Europe for most of the campaign, and then obviously played Milan, one of the best teams in Italy. Sheffield United just aren't of that kind of calibre. I was surprised to see that, I think, is it 4 of the Blades' 5 league games have gone over 2.5, so had me leaning towards the overs, but I ended up settling on a no bet. I was happy to leave it alone in the end, just because there's nothing that really jumped out to me, and I do just want to carry on watching Newcastle to see what what kind of approach Eddie Howe's taking, because the opening days of the season or the early games, he was very gung-ho, very attacking. Then he's thrown in a couple of spanners in the works with slightly more defensive approaches. So they're just on my watching radar at the minute, as opposed to a team that I'm looking to get involved in.
There's nothing about this game I want to get involved in, and trust me, I mean, I've tried here, but there's nothing in this game. Sheffield United have a lot of injuries. Newcastle, they've been okay this season. I just don't put them as part of my big six right now. I'm a big wait and see on Newcastle. Fortunate last weekend, playing Champions League football. The craziest thing in the broadcast, I never realized that was the first time Eddie Howe has ever attended a Champions League game. As a fan, manager, he's never been to a Champions League match before that one midweek. That just strikes me as downright bizarre. So we'll see. But you and I both no bet for this game. So no head-to-head that time. We're just both aligned. Your favorite bet of the week, Jake, as we've gone through 10 of 10?
Both teams to score and over 2.5 at the Emirates.
Okay. Mine, United plus 246 to win to 0 over Burnley. Likewise, Aston Villa on the handicap against Chelsea. Villa are the better team, better side in that for me. On the handicap at a plus number, plus 101, I'll take it. Two favorite plays this week. It's the 25th anniversary of Pinnacle. How are you celebrating, Jake? I'm celebrating through making sure that I'm locked in on the best odds in market, not only for Premier League football, the Champions League, NFL football, and we're on the verge of the new NHL and NBA season as well. So congrats to our fine colleagues at Pinnacle for 25 years of being best in market. You can follow Jake at Jake Oz. He's going to put up that compilation of Jackson missing and missing and missing and missing again.
Yeah, I tried. They've deleted the video off Twitter, so I've actually found it on YouTube and I've sent it to you on YouTube.
Okay.
That seems to be the only place to find it.
Okay, we'll put up.
I might put the YouTube link out.
Done. Yeah, and at Gareth Wheeler as well. We'll be back next week as we look ahead to game week 7. Thank you for tuning in. This has been EPL Insights with our data provided by Understat.